When it comes to the economy, we have what they call a great economic disconnect. Americans are saying that they hate the economy, but they act like they fucking love it. The Biden economy is a walking contradiction. Now, consumer sentiment is at a 10-year low, tumbling in November to levels unseen, even during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. A staggering 70% of Americans rate the economy negatively in an ABC News Washington Post poll. Yet, Americans are shopping up a storm, with retail prices soaring in October at the fastest pace since the stimulus checks were sent out back in March. Now, Walmart, Target, and Home Depot are booming. Hiring is strong, much stronger than the government initially thought, and workers are quitting their jobs at a record pace, in large part because they're very confident that they can easily find a job that pays better. Something doesn't add up, though, and that something has a lot to do with the nation's first inflation scare in decades. Gas prices are at a 7-year high. Now, food prices are soaring. New car prices surged in October, which was the most that it's been since 1975. And simply put, the cost of living is going up, and Americans aren't happy about it. Inflation is overshadowing the real bright spots in the U.S. economy. Now, the economic news is generally good, but inflation is in your face every day, and some of the most visible prices are up, and that makes it seem like an inflation problem is worse than it is. This is what Gus Felcher, the chief economist at PNC, had said. The good news is that despite elevated inflation and the supply chain crisis, Americans are still shopping, and that's crucial because consumer spending makes up 2/3 of the economy. The October retail sales report, which easily beat expectations, signals the U.S. economy is heading into the holiday shopping season with serious momentum, despite the doom and gloom signaled by polls. People say that they are not feeling great about the economy, yet they are spending. This is what Annetta Markowska, who's a chief economist at Jefferies, had said. I just don't fully believe what the confidence reports are telling us. Ultimately, if Americans keep spending, then this confidence problem is much more of a political problem for the current President Joe Biden as opposed to an economic one. Now, of course it's important to note that different people are experiencing different things in today's economy, especially given all the shockwaves that are set off by COVID. Some parts of the economy that were hit the hardest by the pandemic included the travel industry, and the restaurants are still struggling to somewhat recover. Inflation is most painful to low-income families and those living on a fixed income. Social Security cost of living adjustments are coming, but not until next year. Still, there is more evidence that the overall job there is still evidence that that the overall job market continues to recover swiftly from COVID. A surge of hiring in October had dropped the unemployment rate to 4.6, which was down from nearly 15% back in April of last year. Goldman Sachs expects the jobless rate to slip to 3.5% by the end of next year, matching the 50-year low that was set before the pandemic. Although there are concerns about a summer slowdown in hiring, but revisions show the government dramatically underestimated job growth between June and September. The Labor Department marked up its original forecast by a total of 626,000 jobs over that span. At the same time, a record 4.4 million Americans quit their jobs in September, which is clear evidence of how much leverage workers have in today's economy. Now, none of this is to say that inflation isn't a real challenge, because it is. Consumer prices surged in October at the fastest pace since 1990, and inflation has been stronger and lasted longer than the White House, the Federal Reserve, and the smart money on Wall Street anticipated. The most glaring example is the price at the pump. National gas stands at $3.41 or higher, at $3.41 a gallon or higher today, which is up from $2.12 a year ago. Americans do not like the high gas prices, and they have a long history of blaming whoever is in the White House, fair or not, which it's not, because Biden doesn't control gas prices, neither did Trump. The big picture is there is a growing realization that inflation will stay elevated for months to come, and some argue prices will go even higher before they come back to earth. But wages are going up sharply amid a war for talent among young companies, yet wages are often not going up enough to offset the high consumer prices. The deeply polarized state of America may be amplifying these inflationary concerns. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index shows wide gaps among partisans during both the Trump and Biden administrations along key issues, including jobs and inflation-adjusted income. Partisans aligned with the president or Squatters Party have adopted very positive moods, and those in the opposing camp with very negative moods. The University of Michigan report said the partisan supporters of one or the other president or squatter either mentioned or ignored the rising home and stock values, inflation, and income growth rates, or mentioned or ignored employment They ignored the employment or unemployment rate, and so far. But politics likely does not tell the whole story. Consumer sentiment is down across the board, with Democrats, Republicans, and independents all giving the economy the poor marks in the University of Michigan survey today than in the spring of 2021. Sentiment dropped most dramatically among Republicans. And consider this. The consumer sentiment among Democrats stands at 87% today. That's only slightly better than the low 80% reading in early 2017, after the former squatter Donald Trump started squatting in the White House. Another part of the problem is that many Americans have never lived through a period of sticker shock before. Inflation was unusually subdued over the past dozen years, so tame that many economists feared a Japanese-style deflationary spiral that would be hard to get out of. Now, inflation is something that a lot of people have not experienced in their lifetimes, and it's a big shock to the system. For older Americans, all of this inflation talk brings back bad memories of the runaway inflation that happened back in the 70s and 80s. The 1970s and 80s, basically. That's despite the fact that today, situation is nowhere near the consumer price spikes back then. Back in the 1980, the consumer prices peaked at 14.6%. The ironic thing about these inflation fears is a big part of the reason that inflation is here today. It's because demand is booming as the economy recovers from COVID faster than many imagined possible back in March of 2020. Inflation wouldn't be a problem if the U.S. economy was experiencing something like the painfully slow recovery from the Great Recession. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and then also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.